As the world transitions to renewable energy and cleaner technologies, the demand for critical minerals is rising. However, managing these resources sustainably is essential to ensure we meet today's needs without compromising the ability of future generations to do the same. This is where the United Nations Framework Classification for Resources, UNFC, comes in. It serves as a useful tool in informing relevant stakeholders and streamlining sustainable development of resources. By doing so, it helps strike a balance between economic growth and sustainability. Think of the UNFC as a compass guiding responsible resource management and aligning with global sustainability goals, including the UN's 2030 Agenda. So, what exactly is the UNFC? The UNFC stands for United Nations Framework Classification for Resources. It is a global, principles based system designed to classify, manage, and report energy and resource projects in a standardized way. This system applies to a wide range of resources, including minerals, petroleum, renewable energy, nuclear fuel, and even geological storage projects. The UNFC plays a practical role in evaluating projects, as it helps define the environmental, socioeconomic viability, and technical feasibility of resource development projects, while also assessing the level of confidence in the future quantities a project can produce. This ensures better decision making and more sustainable resource management. Developed and maintained by the UNECE's Expert Group on Resource Management, the UNFC is supported by governments, industry leaders, academia, and civil society. This broad collaboration ensures that resource management aligns with sustainability and economic goals worldwide. And why do we need classification? Imagine if we had a universal language that everyone could understand, a system that brings order and clarity to complex information. That's exactly what the UNFC provides. Managing climate change and ensuring sustainable resource use is not simple. It requires integrating vast amounts of data from multiple sources. Without a clear framework, decision making can be slow and inefficient. This is where classification becomes essential. In a world that demands swift, well informed decisions, UNFC is key to making resource management clearer and more actionable. By simplifying complex information, UNFC helps create order, speed sub-rational decision making, and ensures that resources are classified in a coherent, consistent, and transparent manner. And who needs resource classification? Resource classification is essential for multiple stakeholders as it provides structured, reliable information for decision making and resource management. UNFC helps stakeholders answer questions: how is it done, or will be done? What is done and can be done, and how much is available? For governments, they need resource classification to understand their resource base, plan national policies, and ensure sustainable development. For creators of energy and mineral studies, it facilitates the formulation of consistent, forward looking policies by gathering and analyzing data. For industry, industry relies on classification to assess available resources and deploy technology, management, and finances effectively to serve host countries, shareholders, and stakeholders. For financial community, it uses classification to allocate capital efficiently, reducing risks and optimizing investments. For civil society, it engages in classification to ensure transparency, community participation, and assessment of social and environmental impacts. Beyond assessing resource availability, decision makers also consider key environmental and social factors. For example, they consider environmental impact, what are the projected emissions, what sustainability measures are in place, economic viability, what are the costs, expected cash flows, and long-term gains? Resource use. How will natural resources be affected? And finally, community impact. Will local populations be displaced or affected? Or how many local jobs will the project create? UNFC helps answer these questions, providing a structured framework to support informed decision making that balances economic, social, and environmental considerations. So, how do we classify? Classifying resources is about understanding two key factors: how certain we are about their existence and how viable they are for production and use. Typically, when we talk about resources, we focus on those that we know exist and are economically viable. These are called reserves, the small red dot in the diagram as you see. These are the resources we confidently manage because we are certain they are there and we know they can be extracted without financial loss. However, beyond these reserves, there's a much larger set of resources we know exist but aren't sure if they are currently viable. These might require new technologies, better economic conditions, or further studies before they can be classified as reserves. Furthermore, there are resources we suspect exist but haven't been discovered yet. These remain unknown, but they are still part of the broader resource base. The resource base is vast, but the portion we truly understand and can act on is much smaller. The UNFC helps classify resources across the spectrum, from well-defined reserves to potential but uncertain resources, giving decision makers a clearer picture of what is available now and what might become available in the future. This map provides an overview of global critical mineral deposits, showing where we know resources exist. However, simply identifying these resources is not enough. Not all of them can be developed into viable projects. So how do we determine which ones are feasible? How do we decide which projects to move forward with? This is where UNFC becomes beneficial. To summarize, UNFC is a unique system that classifies resources based on three key factors: environmental socioeconomic considerations, technical feasibility, and the degree of confidence in products estimates. It's not just about whether we can extract a resource, it's about whether it makes economic sense and whether it aligns with sustainability and societal goals. By integrating these three dimensions, the UNFC helps decision makers make informed choices about resource projects, ensuring they are not only technically possible, but also beneficial in the long term. UNFC simplifies and accelerates decision making, making the process more predictable, efficient, and transparent. It provides a common language for resource management, allowing countries, industries, and investors to work with a standardized system. Moreover, UNFC is globally recognized and endorsed by the UN ECOSOC, making it a trusted framework for resource allocation. It applies to the entire value chain, from exploration and extraction to processing and even recycling. It also enables continuous monitoring of project progress, helping governments and companies track changes over time. The UNFC is simple to use, relying on three main categories: E, F, and G, which lead to three broad classifications: viable projects, potentially viable projects, and non-viable projects. This system allows for easy comparison of different resource projects, providing clarity on what can and should be developed. It also unifies resource classification across energy minerals and groundwater, creating a single global framework. In short, the UNFC ensures that resource management is comprehensive, transparent, and aligned with economic, environmental, and social priorities. And how does the UNFC work? UNFC, as aforementioned, is built on three-dimensional classification system that evaluates resource projects based on three key criteria: environmental socio-economic viability, the E-axis, technical feasibility, the F-axis, and the degree of confidence in product estimates, G-axis. These three elements together help determine whether a project is viable and to what extent it can be developed. Let's start with the E-axis, which focuses on environmental, social, and economic viability of a project. It considers factors such as economic profitability, social acceptance, legal and regulatory compliance, and environmental impact. Essentially, the E-axis answers, can this project be developed in a way that is economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable? Next, we have the F-axis, which measures technical feasibility. This refers to readiness of the project in terms of infrastructure, technology, and operational plans. It also helps answer key investment questions. Do we have the technology and capacity to extract these resources? And is it worth investing in? Finally, there's the G-axis, which determines the degree of confidence in product estimates. This refers to how certain we are about the quantity and quality of the resources before production begins. Some resources are well documented with strong geological data, while others are more uncertain. The G-axis answers questions such as how much do we know about the resource and how confident are we in these estimates. By combining these three factors, the UNFC classifies projects in a structured way, using a numerical coding system that places each project within a three-dimensional framework. This allows decision makers to assess whether a project is viable, what further studies may be needed, and how resources should be managed effectively. As we mentioned earlier, the UNFC classifies projects using three axes: the E-axis, the F-axis, and the G-axis. However, to make the system even more clear and more precise, the UNFC goes further. It uses categories and subcategories for each axis, providing a detailed and structured framework for classification. By combining these categories and subcategories, The UNFC determines the class of a project, such as viable, potentially viable, and non-viable or prospective. Some projects may also have a subclass, like on production, indicating their current status. Let's take mineral deposits as an example. In the beginning, there may be preliminary information pointing out the potential source. Nothing has been drilled. And at this stage, it is simply a prospective project because we don't even know if there's going to be anything of value. Once drilling starts and some resources are identified, we can move part of the deposit into a known source, and planning for production begins. If the project meets all the necessary criteria, it is economically, socially, and environmentally acceptable, technically feasible, and we have confidence in production estimates, it may move into the viable category. Other projects might remain potentially viable, meaning they could work but need further assessment. Some projects may even be classified as non-viable. They are not currently feasible due to technical challenges, environmental concerns, or economic factors. The key takeaway is that projects can shift between different stages over time. A project that is non-viable today might become viable in the near future as technology advances, regulations change, or market conditions improve. The UNFC helps track these changes over time, offering a dynamic and structured approach to resource classification that supports better decision making. Now, to wrap up, the UNFC is a globally recognized system that enhances resource classification and management. First, the UNFC is endorsed by the UN ECOSOC and widely implemented. It plays a key role in the EU Critical Raw Minerals Act and has been adopted by the African Union for Sustainable Resource Management and are used in initiatives such as AMREC, PARC, and ISSRMs. Second, the UNFC supports the UN Secretary General's panel on critical energy transition minerals principles and recommendations, ensuring responsible and sustainable management of critical resources needed for the energy transition. And finally, the UNFC provides a global framework for harmonizing resource projects.